Welcome, everyone, to the Indy Reds season preview spectacular. I'm your host, Joe Dilling. With me are Bryan Smith and Jim Dimitri. The highlight of this episode will be our preseason predictions, and I'm actually going to write them down this year and keep it in the podcasting closet. But first, though, we're going to have a little bit of commentary on Simon Mignolet's move to Bruges, Adrian coming in Simon Mignolet's place, and a little thing about that we call the Community Shield. So let's just go ahead and jump in, guys. First off, transfer talk. All right. I'm going to start with you, Jim. Thoughts on Simon Mignolet leaving?
It's not surprising. There was talk about it through most of the summer and even before that. And I think Klopp is one of those managers that likes to stay on good terms with players who are sitting on the bench, not getting to play much. And of course, Mignolet was in that category. And also, he's the type of guy that doesn't stand in the way of players who want to leave to better their careers. So, and I think that's clearly what was happening with Mignolet. He wanted playing time. I mean, Club Bruges is not exactly a world powerhouse, but at least he'll be the number one there, get the reps that he wants, and I think it's all good. What did we get? £8 million for him? Is that right?
Yeah,
something like that.
I think I said we paid 10 or something like that, and so we lost a little money. But I mean, gosh, we've had him for 7 years or something like that. So.
We lost a little money, and we get a replacement keeper on a free. So
yeah, so it got a balance.
You can't really complain about that. Yeah, we'll get there, but So those are my thoughts on Mignolet leaving. What do you think, Bryan?
I think you're right. I wish him the best of luck, and he's good enough to certainly play for Bruges and as their number one. I think he's good enough to be Premier League keeper, a number one keeper, not necessarily for a top 5 or 6 club, and he certainly doesn't do well in our style where we're expecting some fantastic distribution and the ball at your feet a lot, and all kinds of things that Allison does so well. So he really wasn't ever going to be the number one here unless something bad happened to Allison. So I wish him the best of luck. He made a lot of good comments and did a lot of good things the last couple of years when he was beaten out by Karius, and obviously we signed Allison, so he got shoved way to the back. So he should find himself. Fortunately, he wasn't sent to Turkey, never to be heard from again, like they did with Karius. So, best of luck to him. He's going back home to Belgium, and I hope he does well. I wish I got to hold his hand once, but I only know one person that got to do that. So
yeah, and the podcast tweeted to him directly. I hate doing that, so I never will, except for this one. I thanked him personally for his time at the club, but also said, it's one of those things that my son will never forget. So thank you for that. Glad that he got to escort him out. So, best regards to Simon Mignolet. Hopefully he has a good time. He still plays well, and hopefully he still gets called up to the Belgium national team, even though he never plays. So, all right, Adrian. What? I probably just said it wrong again.
No, that's close enough. Unless again you want to do the soft th for the d and trill your r.
Adrian.
And the trilling the r is tough. Do you want the whole thing?
No,
Adrian
Bryan.
San Miguel del Castillo.
All right, so Bryan, thoughts on Adrian coming in?
I know his name now. I know who he is now. I know he played for Betis, and I don't remember him at West Ham, to be honest with you. So, got him on a free. Everybody seems to be excited about getting him, and I looked up. His best season for Betis was 31 starts and 11 clean sheets, and played well in some big matches. And he's 32, so you know what? Klopp wants him. That's good enough for me. So I don't know a whole lot about him other than that. You guys may know a little bit more, so I'm going to throw it over to you,
Jim.
I know as much about him, just about as much about him as Bryan does. The only other thing that I know, and I know, of course, we played West Ham when he was in goal. I just don't remember him at all. But the other thing is, I don't think he made any first team appearances last year because West Ham brought Łukasz Fabianski in, and he got the number 1 shirt. So I At least I don't think he made any league appearances last year. I don't recall that he did. But that's about as much as I can do. I guess the other thought is as I already mentioned before, it seems like the deal was a good one in that, first of all, it was on a free transfer. And second, it seems like, the club knew that Mignolet was going to be on his way out the door. So they already had this transfer of Adriano already lined up, then ready to pull the trigger. And, that just is part and parcel of the way that Michael Edwards and Klopp and the club do business now, which is good to see. It kind of reminds me of Chan leaving, and then boom, there's Fabinho. So not necessarily the same category of transfer, but it's the same type of procedure, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there were some other guys talking. It might have been NFL rap guys saying, it really felt like this deal was done a long time ago, and they said just let us have him through preseason. Once we get past the Community Shield, he's all yours, kind of thing. We'll get him all tuned up, ready to go, so he can step in day one, kind of thing. And that makes sense, especially with the way that it was lined up. But on Adrian, I remember the name, but have you guys seen that video going around of him bringing the ball up the pitch and just like it ended up going and scoring a goal? Have you guys seen that video?
No, I have not seen that. Is that when he played for Betis?
No, I think it was when he played for West Ham. It might have been like a cup game. It might have been a cup game or something like that. But you to see him with the ball, and he's dribbling. He's not really megging guys, and some of the players are kind of surrounding him also or whatever. And they're afraid. It's almost like the players are afraid to do something. He goes up and he puts one past the other keeper from inside the box. It's great. I think I retweeted it in Stanley House on Twitter. Had shared it originally and said, I will be severely disappointed if he doesn't do this in a club competition this season.
I don't think that's real.
You don't think
I
it's
haven't
real?
seen it yet.
Okay.
No, well, there is a great story about him when he played for West Ham. And I do remember this, and I read a little bit about it today, so I guess I was kind of lying earlier. FA Cup third round replay in a penalty shootout, and ended up going 9-8. And he was a striker and a midfielder as a youth till he got a little bit older than your boy Joe, and then he switched to goalkeeper due to some injury, and he's been a goalkeeper ever since. So this shootout went to 9-8. Of course, he stops a penalty, and it's his turn. Either he's the 9th player or he's the 10th or 11th or whatever he was. He's at least the 9th. He converts it, but he was so confident he was going to make the penalty. He took his goalkeeper gloves off before he took it, buried it, and his team won 9-8.
That's ballsy.
So guess who? This was in 2015. Guess who they beat to knock out of the FA Cup at that point?
Who?
Everton.
Nice. Okay, so I found it. You're right. It might not be him, but you see, seriously, it has. I'm seeing Barclays on the board. WHU West Ham United. He's dribbling the ball through. He's over midfield. Yep, there's West Ham players kind of shielding for him, and then he just cuts him out to the penalty spot. It falls over and slides one home. I just sent it to you guys, so yeah, you can decide if it's him or not. But yeah.
I'm looking at this. Who is the opponent? It says in the score line, it says ALS. I'm trying to think of who ALS is. It's obviously some lower division club.
It would be Accrington. There wouldn't be Accrington Stanley.
I don't know.
The L comes from. But anyway,
it would not be. I don't know.
So whatever. If you guys can figure it out, let us know. Moving on a little bit. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So, hey, Mane's back, and if you haven't seen the video, it's great. He's hugging every single one on the team that he comes across, except for Andy Robertson. But Andy Robertson, he goes, "Hey, you didn't play too well yesterday, huh?" And Andy shoots something back, but he's in the pool, so you can't really hear him too well. But yeah, it was pretty fun. It was good here, and it's great to see Mane back. And it's what I think is even better. And Jim and I kind of spoke about this earlier. It's great to see that they have that relationship, because we all heard the stories about Mane being shy and quiet and kind of keeping to himself, and then come into a club and he's out there giving everybody a hug. You know, he gives Bobby a hug, and Bobby kind of shoots him some crap. You know, every single one of the Brazilians is giving him a hug. So I thought that was really good to see. Anything else you guys took from the video on Mane coming back?
Just what I said to you, Joe. We were texting about it earlier, and I said, that I loved seeing him hug everyone. I think it speaks volumes for the closeness of the team. There was a lot of talk after the Champions League final last year, or not last year, this year. Geez, what am I saying? And one of the points made often was how cohesive and close the team was with each other. And, I think that is fantastic, because it's one thing to have a roster of really talented players. But it's altogether another thing to have talented players that also have each other's backs and have some synergy.
Speaking of LFC TV videos, if you have not seen the Dunkers video with James Milner and Andy Robertson yet, you are doing yourself a disservice. So please go watch that. Pause the podcast and go watch it right now. It's great. And actually, it made me very hungry. So
yes,
I do love some milk chocolate hobnobs. Let's just put it that way. I don't care about dunking in that regard also. So now I'm going to come to you guys with another question. So there's been a lot of talk that we're not going to sign anybody else during this window. It's a lot of rumors. James Pierce now with the Athletic. By the way, congratulations, Jim. We met him. We did read his media badge. We did know he was going to the Athletic, but again, that was his news to break, not ours. That'd be kind of shitty of us to do. So we decided not to do that. But anyway, he was saying that it seems like there might be one that they're kind of holding off on, and it's been pretty quiet after the Adrian signing. So Bryan, I'm going to come to you first. Are you okay with this team as it is going into the season, or do you think we'll be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't strengthen anywhere in the club?
It's a tough question. I wish we had signed some more cover for left back, because I'm a little bit worried about that position. That's the position I'm most worried about in the entire field, to be honest with you. Everybody's talking about some help up front and, a player that can play both wide and down the middle in case Monty or Sella needs a rest, or Bobby, picks up a knock or whatever it is. We've got Shaq and Brewster and some of those guys that can fill in like that. You can throw Ox out there, change the formation maybe to a diamond with two up front, and Ox sits behind him, that kind of stuff. I'm not that worried about our depth up front, which is kind of strange because Salah's pretty much irreplaceable as far as goal scoring goes, and Bobby's irreplaceable just in the style of player that he is. He might be one of the most unique players in the world as far as what he does at his position. But I'm worried about left back, and that bugs me a little bit. So if we stay healthy, my answer to your question is, we're going to be fine. But if we don't, I think it's going to come back and bite us a little bit. So we'll see. But I'm torn on our window here, and a little bit about the lack of action. And I have I don't know, it might be a crazy theory on that, but I want to see what Jim has to say about the window first. Maybe you can come back to me.
I pretty much agree with all of that. I think my criticism, Bryan and I were kind of kidding around on Twitter and, kidding around about having a pod fight about this issue. And I actually agree with what you said, Bryan. My criticism was more of people who were just absolutely going into a panic about the fact that we hadn't announced any kind of big money signing, marquee signing, anything like that. That I thought was a bit ridiculous. But I do share concerns, and I agree. I think left back is probably the most concerning position. I thought I'm trying to think with regard to young players. Keanu Hover is a right back, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right?
Yeah. The Jim, I'm going to interrupt for a second. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and do that. It just really feels like Klopp's comfortable with James Milner as a backup, as well as Larucci, and that's where I think you're looking at for the young player is Larucci coming in, and he had a pretty good preseason from what we saw. So I mean, granted, I didn't want to play it against Manchester City because he's pretty untested, but going into cups, and then if we need a break, I mean, they could put Joe Gomez over on the left as well. More likely they'd drop James Milner back to the left to give Robbo a break. And James is, I think, going to be struggling for a little bit of playing time this season. But yeah, there's my kind of thought on the left back, and I'll share my views in a second. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to bring up those points as well. So now that you've already raised them, I'll just kick it over to you because those were precisely my thoughts. I do think we'll see a fair amount of Milner depending on who the opponent is in that position. If Andy for some reason can't go, and then when we get to cup competitions, you might see him there too. And depending on how Larucci pans out, I think he may occasionally play there as well. So
my taking is I am done with everybody that's going crazy about us not signing anybody, so much so that I'm blocking people or muting them. I just don't want to hear it. Let's just be honest. We have the best coach in the world, and to hear people suggest that it's FSG not supporting him is completely ludicrous. I honestly don't believe that they would do that. They understand how important winning is. Believe us, they want us. Their money.
They want to win the league.
They want to win the league.
I mean,
we won the Champions League. They understand that you have to spend money to make money. They're businessmen. They're not somebody that just inherited money like all the Glazers and that don't really get it. But my thing is that we've said this before. You got to trust Jurgen Klopp. He knows what the hell he's doing. He was the coach that won us the Champions League 2 months ago. Almost 2 months to the day, and people are still bitching. It's just ridiculous. The thing I'm taking from it is would I have liked somebody else to come in? Yes, I would have. But I think Klopp is trying to give people a chance. He's trying to give his players a chance. We always talk about, you got to grow players. Players got to grow into a position. They need experience. Okay, well, we are developing players. Look at Harvey just joined, and he could have gone anywhere. He really could have gone anywhere. He could have stayed at Fulham and developed further. He would have gotten more playing time. Granted, it would probably have been the championship, but he would have gotten that experience that he needs. But he decides to come to Liverpool because they're going to develop him. He's going to get some chances this year. Granted, it might be cup competitions, but he's going to get some chances this year, and he's going to be doing first team training with I don't know, maybe the best front three in the world. Arsenal might say something else about that, but anyway.
There's talk of him going on loan to Bournemouth now. That was
Wilson, or it was Harry Wilson.
Yeah, it was Harry Wilson. But can I say one more thing, Joe? About
did you say Harry or Harvey?
I was talking about Harvey, and then Harry Wilson's on.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Just if I could say one more thing about Klopp's decision making with regard to transfers, he actually said sometime this week, or actually last week, maybe over the weekend before Community Shield match, that there was really nobody on the. I mean, first of all, he said, "I know what our needs are," and that there's nobody on the market right now that really is well suited to serve those needs. And I think he didn't say it, but he would also add at the price we want to pay.
Yeah.
So if there's nobody out there that they could buy that would be a good fit for what the club needs, then don't buy anybody. It's pretty simple.
We're under 2 days away. Well, excuse me, we're right about 2.5 days away or whatever from noon on Thursday, guys, is the transfer deadline.
Yeah, the window shut.
Window goes closed for at least EPL teams. So, I mean, we'll see. But I'm perfectly fine going into the season. I'm going to trust Klopp. We say it all the time. Trust Klopp. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, we've got to trust Klopp. Now, Bryan, how are you feeling? If you come back and said that, hey, I want to have another opinion about this transfer or lack of transfers.
Well, I'm a little skeptical of all this talk, not just what we're saying tonight, but what we're reading online and things Klopp is saying and the other club officials are saying and what some things the media are saying. I don't have a social media feed full of maniacs. I hate that stuff. I don't, follow just anybody. I mean, I look and see what they're doing, what they're all about. And, I've got a couple people that I've muted and blocked as well, Joe. Probably not as many as you, but I don't have a ton of people I follow. But here's my issue. Last year, Liverpool was one of the most profitable teams in the world on record. And we received another 70 some odd million for winning the Champions League. If we wanted to buy somebody, we could do it. Now, that doesn't mean you should just go out and just buy anybody just for the sake of buying. That's what United do, and they get people like Sanchez and pay him, $500,000 a week to, be a complete idiot and just be awful. I don't want to do that. And granted, it would be tough to buy a player of the quality that would make these social media maniacs, satisfied and say, okay, by the way, you're fourth choice up front, or, you're behind, two other midfielders and Ox is back, so you might be behind 2.5. So good luck. Yeah. I get that. I get all that, but you see Everton buying this Italian kid. He's already played for Italy a couple times. Yesterday. Players like that might have been worth a chance. Maybe we went in for guys like that and it just didn't work out, or maybe that's the type of player that, as Jim mentioned, is good, but we didn't like the price. I mean, who knows? What I'm worried about is this, and I'll get to it because I'm rambling on here. And I'm not getting this from any strange conspiracy theorists, or I'm not reading about it online. I just kind of was thinking about like the last week or so. Is it possible that we already know that Mane or Salah, one of the two, are leaving next year? And we're, Klopp saying, oh, you can't always spend big every year. I mean, that's baloney. We have the money sitting right there if we wanted to do it. What if one of those two guys is leaving next year? And they've already told us. They said they're going to give us their all this year. And I believe them, and so does Klopp. But we're saving our money for a big replacement next year because we're going to have to do it because a big player or two is leaving next year, and that's why we're not spending this year. That's what worries me.
I've been saying it. I've been saying it all summer. I honestly think, especially when the Mbappe stuff was coming on, we don't bring in Kylian Mbappe to sit on the bench. We don't bring in Christian Pulisic to sit on the bench. We don't bring in Timo Werner to sit on the bench. Where are you going to play these guys? These are the guys that people want. Same thing with Bruno Fernandes. He was fabulous when we played against him in preseason, but he doesn't come into our club and sit the bench. There's a lot of games, but I mean, is he going to be happy not playing against Manchester United, not playing against Manchester City? You come to Liverpool to play against the best teams. You're going to want to do that. You're going to play in the Champions League. But right now, we're going to have Bobby, Sadio, and Mane. Sorry, I just said that completely wrong. And Salah up front. But I've been telling you guys for a while. I really think that it is. It's Mane or Salah is going to leave at the end of next year, and then we're going to see some big money moves. It's going to be a Timo Werner on a free transfer, or it's going to be Kylian Mbappe, and we're going to pay him $1 bazillion. I mean, we're going to see. It's one of those things, and I think that's a great point, Brian. But I honestly think that's what we've all been kind of feeling, maybe behind the scenes. But still, I mean, we have the money to do it, but I just don't. I kind of lean to. I kind of lean to the money that you would need to bring in that would make people happy and make them shut up. Is not it. Those players are going to want to come in and they're going to want to start, and not necessarily say they're getting a guaranteed start, but they're going to come in with an expectation to start. They're going to look at this team and say, "Where do I fit in?" And
you can't make that kind of a purchase this year with the players that we have now up front.
No,
that just simply isn't going to happen.
Yes,
there's no way. But for Klopp to say, well, you just can't spend a whole lot of money every year. We can't. That's just, we have more money this year than we did last year and the year before, and we bought Virgil and Allison and I'm not sitting here looking at the club's books and maybe I'm stretching things a little bit, but the revenues we brought in last year were ridiculous.
And they're going to be huge again this year.
Sure, they will. Absolutely, they will be. Just from the Champions Edition FIFA sales alone, Virgil's going to get a few million. So
Yeah, exactly. The teaming up with FIFA is going to be giving them more money than what they were getting from Pro Evo. And look, and the next year they've got a new kit sponsor coming in, or a new kit deal coming in, and that's going to be a lot more money too. So, I mean, yeah, it's
or are they saving this money to redo the Anfield Road end?
Another good possibility. But I just think we just got to trust Klopp. I think we've got a good team still. I mean, gosh, it's the same team that won the Champions League, but you had Oxlade-Chamberlain to come in off the bench. You know, a fully fit Oxlade.
It's the team that won 90. Yeah.
I mean, could it also be that he wants to give Ryan Brewster a shot this year? You know, maybe he doesn't get rid of Harry or send Harry Wilson off on loan again and keeps him around. Or maybe he's going to give Harvey a few more shots, and Divok's going to get a few more shots. I mean, just sign a new contract. I mean, you've got these guys, and we haven't seen a good run of Divock Origi since he got maimed in Everton. At Goodison, gosh, right after we signed the year, he was having a great year that first year he played for us, and then he ends up getting torn up. I don't know. I think people need to chill out and just respect the process. Michael Edwards got us. Michael Edwards and Jurgen Klopp got us Virgil van Dijk.
Less than Harry Maguire.
Less than Harry Maguire. Yep.
And we got Allison for less than. I'm not even going to attempt to say the Chelsea dude's name.
Just go Kepa.
Say our new backup keeper's name, but yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I'm perfectly fine with that. So let's move on. Let's start talking about Community Shield. All right, so let's settle this once and for all. Guys, we'll go Jim first. Is this a real match or just another preseason match?
Something in between.
Okay.
Leaning more toward preseason match, though. But you know, there are elements of it being a real match, though, and that it was clear that both teams wanted to win the match. So it was a well-played, well-contested match where the teams had their heart in it. But at the end of the day, whether it's meaningful, not all that much.
Okay, Bryan.
You win an hors d'oeuvre tray if you win the match.
Pizza plate, as Bryan said. Bryan. So
it's a bad replica of the Bundesliga trophy.
All right,
and yeah. No, is it a real match? I think Jim right. It's somewhere in between. I'm leaning more towards the preseason thing, and for two reasons. So this Shield pizza plate hors d'oeuvre tray that you win. There's a team that's won it 3 out of the last 5 years. And listeners, if you can name that right now, then maybe you think this is a real a real game and it has a little bit more value than a preseason game, etc. I didn't know the answer to this, and I'll just say, you know, if you're listening and you've already blurted it out as you're driving down the road or cutting the grass or yelling at the kids or whatever you're doing while you're listening to us, the answer is Arsenal's won it 3 out of the last 5 years, if I read that correctly about an hour and a half ago. I didn't know that. So it's not a real game, in my opinion. You get 6 substitutions. That tells you right there that it's not a real game. Yeah. However, you know, the teams that win it like to say, hey, we won something, and I get that. And the team that loses it says, it's not that real of a game. So it is kind of somewhere in between. So we lost it, so I'm going to say, not that real of a game.
So let's put it this way. I really wasn't giving 2 shits about the game to begin with. It glorified preseason game. That's what we'll call it.
It was good to play in it, a competitive game. Some of it was at high tempo. We got to see some players get some minutes against a good team. That all has some value, no doubt about it. But go ahead, Joe.
But do I really give a shit that we lost? No, not really. Now, would I have been, for banter's sake, being like, oh yeah, we're great. We just beat that great Man City team. You know, Leroy Sané goes out injured. He's not going to go to Munich now. You're welcome, everybody else, or whatever. You know, you're welcome, Bundesliga teams. Yeah, I probably would have done that, but that's just because I'm a loudmouth that likes to talk out my ass. But in all honesty, in retrospect, yeah, I would have loved to have won it, but it doesn't really mean anything. But it did give us a really good view of the way that we're shaping up to start the season. So let's go ahead and I was trying to find my spot. So, you know,
what did you think about the way we played? I thought the first half was dreadful.
I did too, and I'm trying to figure out, because I felt, and this is kind of scooting into a couple of the next bullet points, so we'll just kind of lump it all together. I kind of felt that there was something off with the defense, at least in the first half. Well, obviously they get their goal, but I mean, we get burned a few times at the back. And by the way, I'm not counting that as a dribble past Virgil van Dijk. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. If you're looking at that view, I watched some replays of it, and it looks like he just pulls the ball back and passes it. That doesn't look like a dribble pass to me, but whatever. Virgil, there's been a lot of talk that Virgil's off this preseason. Some rumblings in there. I'm not saying I agree with that. I thought Trent kind of looked a little off to begin with. Of course, he had a very tough assignment in Leroy Sané, at least to start the match. When Gabby Jesus came in, he was pretty quiet. Let's just be honest. Except for that one time he quote unquote dribbled past Van Dijk. The midfield I thought was pretty quiet. But man, Bobby was awesome. In the first half, even I loved the way that Bobby was playing. I love that little kind of juggle move, turn and shoot. And man, if he had it just anywhere else, if he had gotten beautiful anywhere else, that was in. And we're going nuts. Beers flying all over the place at Union Jack Pub in beautiful Broad Ripple. Mo sure doesn't seem to have missed a beat. He's looking really sharp. Granted, Post had a really good game. Crossbar had a really good game against Mohamed Salah.
Yes.
Well, Salah had more shots than
all
City
Manchester
did.
City.
So I don't want to say that he's razor sharp because he's not putting the ball in the net, but he's dangerous. He had more touches in their box than I think their entire team had in ours, and like we mentioned, more shots than their team did. But you mentioned Trent. I thought Trent was really poor, especially in the first half, and even Robbo had some moments. Yeah. So, but the second half was a completely different story.
So it was a completely different story, but I also kind of looked like, to me at least, it looked like City took their foot off the gas when Sané went down. They were playing not to get hurt, in essentially a meaningless match, as opposed to going out and trying to win. Because did they already have the lead when Sané went off? I can't remember.
Yes, I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, they definitely stopped pressing as much as they were earlier on in the game. There's no question about that.
Didn't they? Now they scored off a set piece. Salah kept the guy on side. Unfortunately, they scored off a set piece.
Actually, no, it
wasn't a foul.
It was after Sané came off, right? Because they had 10 men on the pitch.
It was a set piece. You're right.
Yeah, it was a set piece, and it wasn't a foul at all. Did they score off the phantom foul that was called when Sané went down? They called it on Trent?
That might
all I remember is that that City only had 10 on the field. So it must have been not too long after Sané got injured.
Well, it must not be a real game because we can't remember.
Well, I've only watched it once, and I watched the highlights, and I just don't remember.
It's fine, but yeah, I mean, they scored a set piece. The whole team was off but Mo keeps them on. It's just one of those things. But yeah, a completely different second half, and people want to talk about Virgil being kind of losing a step this year, or maybe he's kind of resting on his laurels from last season or whatever. But man, look at how he struck fear in Raheem Sterling. Granted, I'm not taking anything away from Allison. That was a great stop, but Sterling looks like he's going to square it, and then sees Virgil there and kind of is like, oh crap, what am I going to do? But Virgil makes that run and takes away that pass to Kyle Walker, which was an assured goal. And it was great. Let's just be honest, it was great. And is there anything better to say about the way that the team looked in the second half? I mean, they were firing. They were making City look like they didn't belong. The finishing just wasn't quite there. Yeah, I need to give you guys some time to talk, or I'm just going to sit here and ramble on the rest of the time.
Joe, I looked up an interesting stat about that second half, or at least I read one. I didn't look it up. I think we outshot them 13-2 or 13-3 in the second half. They only had one shot after the 50th minute, so one shot in the final 40 minutes. One of their couple shots in the second half, let's just call it 3, came after an offside that was allowed just to play on instead of, because we got the ball back. I think they had hit the post on it, actually. A shot that hit the post, and it was play on. Referee that didn't see the offside flag go up. It was that one where they played the through ball, and the one guy was offside, and he kind of ran over the ball and kind of pulled up, and then the other guy dribbled in kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That counts as a shot because they didn't call that offsides, even though it was. So, if they call that shot goes away. They only had one shot in the final 40 minutes of the game, and we had like 11 in that same period.
Let's put it that way, because the assistant had her flag up, and it got waved off to play on. It wouldn't have stood up because it would have broke out VAR, but they hit the post, so he just let
that's
it play
fine.
On.
Yeah, point is, though, that really wasn't a real shot, because if that goes in, it gets reversed, or if, we don't get the ball after it hits the post and the flag, then he's going to call the offside if they score on a rebound, or, whatever. So 1/3 of their shots, you can wipe out in the entire second half because of, offside or whatever you want to call it. We just dominated the last 40 minutes, really dominated the entire second half, and outshot them in a huge way. And it really could have won that game, 5-2 or something crazy like that. So I'm happy with the way we played in the second half. It completely reversed my disappointment in the first half, and I think we're going to hammer Norwich. I'm kind of getting ahead of the cart in front of the horse here, but we look ready to go, and the sharpness will come, and we're playing against City, who keeps their shape well, who's organized defensively, and doesn't leave very many gaps, and they're not Norwich, so I'm ready going into Friday's match. I think we're going to be fine.
Jim, big talking point at the pub, at least at my seat. Kyle Walker's haircut. Did you notice the difference in Kyle Walker's haircut? Looks like
he's bald.
Yep.
He's bald, right?
Yep. Looks like he's got the same syndrome as I do. So Kyle's in section 3.7.
At least I have to give him credit for that. As a guy who's balding, like you, Joe.
Yeah.
Better to keep it high and tight than do a comb over, right? So I give him credit for that. And also, the other thing is that goal line volley clearance.
What a clearance
he did on Mose. I mean, that was just a really amazing job. And I thought, all things considered, as far as their back line is concerned, he was the best player for them defensively in the back. But one thing that occurred to me is without Laporte, and of course now Company's retired too. Their back line, at least the one they trotted out yesterday, wasn't all that great. And
Otamendi was all 6s and 7s. I mean, granted, he was good.
Shit anyway.
True.
And Zinchenko was getting abused as well. So their fullbacks were, or I'm sorry, not their fullbacks, but Otamendi and I thought Stones was fine. I mean, he wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
He was pretty solid. But Zinchenko and Otamendi were not good.
And I believe Mendy, who plays left back for them a lot, is still injured. So
he's injured, and I think Laporte is injured too, which is why he didn't play yesterday. But out of their back four, I think Laporte is clearly is their best defender.
He's not injured on my foot team. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, I don't keep tabs on your foot team, Joe. Who's in your back line on your foot team? No, just kidding.
Most of it's French.
The only thing I know about your foot, Joe, is you had an X-ray recently.
I did. That's ridiculous. That might get to non-plugs.
You have Bavard on your foot team, don't you?
What?
You have Bavard on your foot team.
Yep. I went with some French connection, but I did just recently pick up Allison as my keeper. I finally I sold Kepa and made some money on that. But yeah, Laporte, John Stones is a backup. So is Joel Matip. Varn, I'm probably saying it wrong, is also
Varane.
Andre Veronin. He's about 50 now.
No, I hated him, dude. I don't know what it was about him. I just did not like him. Juan Sebastian Veron, didn't like him either. Yeah, and Andy
don't tell us you have
Robertson.
Joe Gomez at striker, please.
No, I don't. That's what drives me
Okay.
nuts. I did play against somebody that had Virgil van Dijk as a striker, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway.
But can I just say one more thought about the match yesterday? Is this is taken off on what Bryan mentioned. I think you've mentioned something about this too, Joe. I thought Andy and Trent did not have very good matches yesterday, and that was part of the problem in the first half. I didn't think it was necessarily the issue with Virgil, and I don't agree with some of the criticism he's been getting. I think he's going to be fine. But our fullbacks did not have the strongest matches, in part because of the people they had to defend against. I mean, Trent can't go ranging forward when he's got to handle
Leroy Sané.
Leroy Sané
and Gabriel Jesus.
Right. So it's not like he's going to be bombing forward all the time. I thought Joel Matip was fantastic yesterday. When he came in, he was strong. And I thought Gomez had a little bit of a shaky start. And I think that might have been another reason. I don't know how much Gomez has been playing in training with Virgil, but I wonder how much with how out of sync we were in the first half defensively had to do with the fact that it wasn't Matip and Verge in the center rather than Gomez and Verge. Just a thought.
Bryan, we kind of talked about this at the pub yesterday, but did it appear to you that they were doing a 4-2-1-3 yesterday?
At times it did, and I think the answer Klopp would give is that it was our 4-3-3. No changes, specifically, because I don't think it would give too much away. But I think when we play against another top team, our midfield three isn't going to be one player sitting deep and the two a little bit wider and a little bit more advanced. That's what we're going to see against Norwich, is whoever he puts in the six, so to speak, will be the six by himself, and the other two will have a little bit more freedom, like we saw Henderson do at the second half of the season, or last couple months last year, in the Champions League. So at times it looked like a four at the back, and then two central defensive mids, kind of parallel to each other, and one midfielder ahead of them. That forced Divock and Salah a little bit wider and a little bit more, back towards the midfield instead of flat, even with Bobby up front. So the answer is probably a 4-3-3, but a little bit of more of a defensive style 4-3-3. And, you kind of do that when City's sitting back and trying to defend and counter and spring against you. So to answer your question, yes and no, I guess.
I thought Ginny looked rather pedestrian, and I think that if Naby Keita had come back from injury sooner, I think he probably would have been electric in that game. When he came on, I thought he was ready to go, and he looked great. If he had just had more time to get back and show that he's in shape, I think, or fit, I think well, first of all, I think he's in contention for one of those three midfield spots on Friday against Norwich, and I think they're going to be shaking in their boots, and I think we're probably going to, this might be a little preview, advanced preview, but I think we're going to see a really good Naby Keita this year.
So the second half of the game, when we were playing so well, I'll be honest, I didn't notice Keita that much. I've been reading and hearing a lot about how good he was, and I think I was, partially wanting the equalizer to come, and then we got it, and then I wanted the winner to come, and it was easy to focus on Salah hitting the post and Virgil hitting the bar and the ball going down on the line, and all that kind of stuff. Tell me more about Keita, because I missed it, and I think I was distracted by the whole video delay that we were putting up with it at UJ's, which actually was kind of funny. I don't know if Jim knows that story, but my question is about Keita. Tell me more about what you saw, because I actually didn't notice it as we were watching the game, so shame on me.
I think it was more of his positioning. I think he was ready. He was there. He might have even had a couple shots. I could be completely wrong, and that's fine if you say, Joe was wrong.
He had one shot.
I think he had one that was blocked, I think.
Yes, he had one shot.
He was getting, it was his positioning, and and reading the game that really looked like he's ready to go.
All right, I'll take it.
So, let's see, what else do we have? So, who were you happiest to see their performance yesterday? And I'll start with you, Jim.
Well, I think we've already touched on this, but Bobby was fantastic. I thought he was really good. Mo, I was also impressed with a lot, despite the post and no, actually the crossbar was Virgil, right? The shot that bounced down and hit the goal line.
God damn. Yeah. Another game of millimeters, seriously.
Yeah. And Joel Matip, I thought was really good when he came in yesterday too. I thought Ox showed some flashes of a little bit of brilliance. I'm excited to see what he can do this season. I know we've talked about Keita, but I'm really excited to see Ox on the pitch and in meaningful games. So, if I had to pick a man of the match, I'd go with Bobby. I thought he was integral to the way that everything worked. And connecting the midfield line with the forwards.
Bryan, same question.
Bobby's performance was terrific, and I thought he was outstanding even before his ridiculous juggling act over his head, flip, spin, banger, half volley, left-footed. That's the way he took that ball down was ridiculous, and
I need to show that.
To kind of rainbow flick it over that dude. I mean, he had his boot up above his shoulder twice in the span of about a second. He's just ridiculous, and he runs his ass off, and he was winning balls everywhere. He was dictating where City was going to play the ball next, just with his pressure. And, not all the time. You can't do it for an hour, much less 90 minutes. But I thought he was excellent, and I can't wait to see him, play this year. He's one of my favorite guys, and he struggled a little bit in the second half last year, or second half of the season. So I hope he gets off to a great start. So his performance was outstanding. He was my guy. The fact that De Bruyne received man of the match is just absurd, and I don't.
That left me scratching my head.
It's easily a non-plug, but I'm just going to throw it in here in the middle here. But as far as performances go, there was another performance we haven't mentioned yet, and that's from the Liverpool supporters before the match even began.
It was on the list, but we kind of jumped right into the match. So go ahead. So
what
Bryan.
about that performance, gentlemen?
It doesn't bother me. First of all, I'm not English.
Nor are we Scouts.
Nor are we Scouts. No, but
that's right.
If you want to know why Liverpool fans booed, just go. There's some great articles out there. I'm not even going to do them the disservice of trying to recite it, because let's just be frank. The whole Northwest, and whether Manchester wants to agree with it or not, has been screwed over by the Tory government and the monarchs, kind of because they're together. And then you go back to the whole Hillsborough and Boris Johnson, the new prime minister, sticking by that it was Liverpool fans' fault, and stuff like that. It is ridiculous. And there's some very well written articles out there from people that are from the area that know a lot more about it than what I can say. And I don't have a problem with it. First of all,
Joe, I want to plug one article. Those that want to know more about why Liverpool fans were booing during God Save the Queen, look up an article by Tony Evans. I read it today. It's really well done.
It's in the Independent.
In the Independent, yeah, that's right. He writes for the Independent. So
he directed it at a conservative MP.
Yeah, he wrote it kind of an open letter, to the leader of the House of Commons, and I'm going to get his name wrong, so I'll just leave it at that. But Tony Evans wrote it, and it was a good piece. So I saw Everton fans on Twitter today saying, good for the Liverpool supporters, good for them. We agree, and that, that's kind of a big thing for an Everton supporter to say that. So Liverpool fans, it's been several generations that have been doing this. This isn't the first time that they've done this. They've been doing this for years and years and years. It's probably the one that's got the most attention. Maybe just because of the nature of this game, or because we just, we're European champions, or because everybody has ESPN Plus now suddenly. I don't know. But it got some attention, and, you said it well. Joe. We're not the ones to necessarily explain this, but Tony Evans wrote a nice piece if anybody wants to learn more about it.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things he talks about in there is, Liverpool's more European than they really are English. It's
and Irish.
Irish. And
has the oldest
African
Chinese community.
And Chinese communities.
Chinese community in England, and I think Turkish as well. It might have been
the
other
African.
One. African. Okay, thank you.
But yeah, so
I can't wait to go there. Jennifer wants to go to Paris on her 25th wedding anniversary that's coming out of a couple of years, so I may just land in Liverpool and just say oops and then see if I can get away with it.
Yeah, very expensive to fly into into John Lennon Airport. I might want to consider flying into Manchester or London and taking a train. Just a piece of advice. And then
it's 25th wedding anniversary.
Okay, well you can
also
take
there.
You can also
take some gin and tonic beer with me, and I'll just get in for free.
There you go. My
you get a ride from the Anfield Rap guys.
So one of my favorite things about the whole channel, so the high speed train between London and Paris, is that the last stop on that is at Trafalgar Square, and Trafalgar is where the English beat Napoleon. So it's kind of like another dig at France yet again by the British. So that's kind of fun as well. But anyway, yeah, it's really, really good article. Definitely go read that one by Tony Evans. So all right, you guys ready to move on to the next spot?
Sure.
All right. Predictions that we will probably be wrong, even though I think I went back at one point last year, and we actually kind of were pretty accurate, I think, which was awesome. So, Bryan, I'm actually going to start with you again this year. I think I started with you last year. Here's what we're looking at. What do you, for a successful season, what would you like to see the club finish, club finish in to be considered a successful season? And you just say kind of, to be successful, we have to win a domestic cup, and we need to make last 16 of the Champions League and finish top 4, whatever that is. And then come back and say, okay, I think we're going to get X, Y, and Z based on this team.
All right. So
Sound
for
good?
a successful, I got it. So for a successful season, so what is my kind of floor for a successful ceiling? Not necessarily a ceiling, because that comes in the prediction part. So, all right, for a successful season, and this is including European and domestic and everything in the league, the whole deal. Is that right?
Yeah, and we don't need to go into Super Cup and UEFA.
Yeah, I understand.
Shit, I don't give a shit about that.
Okay, very good. So for a successful season, I'm going to kind of, obviously there's trophies to win here, and the Premier League is the big one. For a successful season, I want to reach 2 finals, and I would consider being within striking distance of winning the Premier League, with a couple games to go, is the equivalent of, say, reaching a final, kind of like we were last year. So I want to reach 2 finals, whether that's in Europe or whether that's being there at the end of the Premier League or reaching the final of one of the domestic trophies. I would consider a successful season, reaching 2 of those finals. That could be a Champions League final. That could be FA Cup and having a shot at the double and not going as far as the Champions League, or it could be, a combination of those things. It could be winning the League Cup and having a shot at the league. I mean, 2 of those many finals, so to speak, getting rid of the crummy ones, like you talked about, the Super Double Cup or whatever the hell they call them. So 2 finals.
Secret probation cup.
Yes, my predictions then on what we'll actually accomplish, and I'm going to throw in Owens as well. I asked him before we started potting. I picked him up from practice tonight, and we were talking about on the way home. What's his prediction? Because I knew we were doing this. He says it's going to come down to City and Liverpool again, and it's going to come right down to the very end as far as the league goes. I didn't hold him to the Champions League. We don't know what kind of group we're going to get in yet, although we should be in really good shape because we're in pot 1 now instead of coming out of pot 3 and just running all the way to the final and winning the damn thing. So our group will be a little bit easier, but once you get to the knockout competition, who knows? So Owen says we're going to be in there with a shot for sure. Us and City are the only 2 teams that can win this league, and I agree with him. My prediction as far as the league goes, I've been a little bummed out about it for about a week and a half. We had a bad preseason, so to speak. And looking back on last season, we had a lot of things go our way, a lot of breaks, and we were relatively healthy. We're scoring goals off the Pickford's, knuckle crossbars and stuff with 8 seconds to go. And, we had a little bit of luck on our side last year. We had that crazy late screamer from Sturridge away at Stamford Bridge at the beginning of the season that kind of propelled us for a couple of weeks. We had that ridiculous save from Alisson against Napoli that would have knocked us out. This incredible performance against Barcelona, which just shocked the world, is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. We had a lot of things go our way last year. I don't know that we're going to have that same luck this year. And I'm a little bit worried about that. And we were relatively healthy last year, too. I think we're a couple of injuries away from having a difficult season. And I don't know if we can get 97 points again if we have any adversity that rises up this year bigger than what we had last year. And we had pretty good luck last year, as I mentioned. So I think that City are more likely to repeat their points performance this coming season than we are. That doesn't mean that I don't think we can win the league, but I wouldn't be shocked if we come in second again. So my prediction is unfortunately probably going to be that. We need a lot of injuries from City for that to happen. And, maybe Sonny just picked one up. I do think their back line is suspect, and maybe we showed the league a little bit how to kind of go after them. But, these other teams don't have the players that we do up front to kind of pull that off. So
Arsenal says they do.
Well, yeah, they do. But Arsenal's going to have to win every game 8-7.
Yes,
true.
Precisely.
And they're going to win some 8-7, I guess. But
we're going to win 5-4. We're going to win 5-4.
I think it's going to be a really, really interesting season. It's going to be us and City in the league. Champions League, like I said, I don't know. I want to get past around the 16. I want to get at least to the final 8. When you get to that point, who knows what can happen. Am I going to demand that we win it again? No. Do we have to win it again for it to be a successful season? No. I think that's a bit much. I'll predict second in the league, and if we win it, I'll be as happy as anybody. But in the domestic cups, let's get to a final or two and see what happens. So hopefully that wasn't too much of a Debbie Downer, but I'm trying to think about this realistically, and boy, I hope I'm wrong.
All right, Jim, what are you thinking, man?
God, I hate to say I agree with pretty much everything that Bryan says, but that's what it really boils down to. I think
really?
I
thought I was going to be out on an island here.
No, I think where I depart a little bit is successful. So I think for the league, for me, successful finish, and I think this will happen, is a top 2 spot. Because I agree that we and City are the 2 best teams in the league. I think Chelsea's actually going to be pretty decent this year. It remains to be seen how things will actually shake out. I was talking to a guy by the name of Jared Guy. This is a good play on words. His name is Jared Guy.
Hey, Guy.
Jared's, yeah. A little
French. Was his name Biggie?
Yes, it would be Guy. So Jared is one of the bartenders at the Cool Ship Central States tap room, but he's also one of the managers for good old Ted Miller, the owner of Bruges Brasserie and Chuleta Basque Cider House and beautiful Broad Ripple. He's a big soccer guy. He's a big Sporting Kansas City fan. And we were talking the other day about what we think our top 4 predictions are for the Premier League. And City and Liverpool were definitely locks. We were pretty sure that Chelsea was going to be in there. But the number 4, we really couldn't pin it down because the rest of the potential top 4 contenders all have weaknesses. Pretty significant weaknesses, I think. So we'll be that as it may. As far as other parts of this successful season, I think making the Champions League knockout rounds is frankly successful because, as Bryan said, we just don't know what we're in for at all at this point. And once you get in the knockout rounds, it's kind of anything goes. And then as far as the domestic cup competitions and the UEFA Super Cup and the what's the other one? The World Club Cup.
Jim, we just call them whatever cups. We don't need to have their right answers.
The cups that
the
nobody
December
gives a
the December cups,
the December cups that nobody gives a shit about.
otherwise known as the D cups.
Well, people care about D cups. I'm kidding. Sorry, maybe I need to edit that out.
Let's do put on rim shot and then move on from there. I honestly don't really care where we end up there, and that even goes. I'm sorry to say for the FA Cup. We probably say this every year. The FA Cup used to be so much more important than it is now. But now with the fixture congestion from the Premier League and from international breaks and, the Nations League and UEFA or Euro qualifying and all that, it just seems to be more of a nuisance than anything else. So all I really care about is League and Champions League. As far as predictions are concerned, I'm going to go with Bryan. I think we'll probably finish second, although I won't be surprised if we win the league. I think that the potential is there. I think clearly after the Community Shield match yesterday, there is probably a pretty strong belief in the squad that we could win the league this year. And with the cohesiveness of the team, with the camaraderie of the team, with their, I think, genuine affinity for one another, that is entirely possible. Winning the league is entirely possible. But I'm not willing to exactly go out on a limb and say that's definitely going to happen. Champions League, again, I think we get into the knockout rounds. I think because we're in pot one, we're going to be able to do that. I won't say with relative ease, but I have enough confidence that our group draw is going to be favorable enough that we'll be able to do that. So there you go.
Okay, so successful season for me. You got to be top two. There's no doubt about it. To be considered successful this season needs to be top two, and you need to have some separation between third. Everyone's just saying that Liverpool and Manchester City are the two best teams in the league. To be a successful season, it starts with the league. Won Champions League last year. I'm more inclined that I want the league this year more than I want progress in the Champions League. So I'm going to say to be successful is if we are in that top two spot and we are within striking distance in the end, let's just say in the second half of the season, when it matters, there's no doubt in my mind that we will make it out of the knockout round. Excuse me, we'll make it to the knockout rounds, but I think that you have to be at a round of 16 minimum for it to be a successful season. A round of 8 ideally for success, and I don't really care about the FA Cup or Carabao Cup. But let's be honest, it'd be nice to win one. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to put the success of the season on that. And as far as the other cups that we're in December, send the kids. I really don't care about those. I mean, it's just kind of a bragging right thing, and we have enough to brag about because we won the Champions League last year for a 6th time. Now, my predictions. I don't think either team is going to get close to 97 points again this season. I just think it was a miracle last year. City had us pushing them, and they almost faltered a few times. Well, they did falter a few times right around the first of the year, but we did too. In January, February, that let City back in and then take their spot back. So, I think it's gonna be another tight race, but I don't think it's gonna be a 97-point tight race. And I think we got City scared a little bit, especially with losing Vincent Kompany. Don't get me wrong, he hasn't been that great, but I don't think Ederson is that much better, all honesty, over Claudio Bravo. And Claudio Bravo played a great game yesterday. So did Post and Crossbar. But two of the new signings by Manchester City. But I'm telling you, Fernandinho was huge for him last year, and is he gone? Or whatnot, but they brought in the new guy, Roddy. Rodri, and he seemed okay yesterday, but I mean he'll get settled and stuff. But Raheem Sterling had a phenomenal season last year, and I don't know if he can duplicate that. Sergio Aguero seems to defy
He can't.
time and space, but he'll probably play well again. And who knows what's going to happen with Sane? I think if they lose Sane, I think it's going to be a bigger detriment to their system than they want to admit. And granted, they have Riyad Mahrez, and granted they have Gundogan, and they have a full season with Kevin De Bruyne. Knock on wood for the City fans, but I honestly just don't see it coming. And like Bryan said, we are a major injury away from being struggling. So my prediction, I think we're going to win it. I think we've got it this year. I think that what'll happen is that Klopp will say, we'll take what we get in the Champions League, but I really want to win that League Cup this year. Or not the League Cup, but you know what I mean. I really want to win the Premier League this year. Let's focus on that. We'll show up, we'll play, we'll give it our best. But in the Champions League, but I think what we're going to do is we're just going to say, hey, look, our priority, I'm going to rest players if they need a rest in a Champions League match against Porto. and because we've got a big game against Spurs on the weekend, or we've got a big game against City on the weekend, so I need Mohamed Salah, who might have a little bit of a cramp or something. I don't know, something like that. We'll give him a rest, give him a day off. So that's my 2 cents. But let's just think about it this way, guys. We beat Barcelona without Bobby, without Salah. We beat Barcelona.
Yeah, and taking Robbo off at halftime.
Let that kind of sink in. So, so just to sum her up, I think we're going to win the league, and I think we'll probably get round of 8, in the Champions League. I don't see us winning the Champions League this year. I don't see us going back to the final Champions League again this year. Will I go crazy if I'm wrong and we go and win it again, or even get to the final again? You better believe it. But I think they're going to focus on the league this year. And that includes domestic cups. I'm not going to predict anything. They won't. If they make a final in domestic cup, then it's just an added bonus. Yeah, that's where I'm at. So where am I wrong, Bryan?
No, I think you've made a lot of good points. I kind of like the idea of doing well in domestic cups because we've got some. Maybe some better young up and coming players in Brewster and Man Bun and some of those guys that can do well in the early rounds of the League Cup and especially the early rounds of the FA Cup as well. Really, let's face it, for a team like Liverpool or the other, top 8 or so teams, the FA Cup, you just rely on your kids and a couple of veterans that don't get a ton of playing time to get you to the last 8 of the FA Cup, and then you try to win it. Yeah. With your normal starters, so I can see us doing that. But one thing I wanted to mention, if you let me, is as far as the league goes, and I like what you were saying, and I took a really hard look at the schedule today because I knew we were potting tonight. I knew predictions were coming. I don't know if you guys took a really deep look at the schedule or not, but it's loaded with tough games early. That means August, September, October, and in the early November. So in our first, let me see, that's 2, 4, 6, first 15 games or so, maybe a dozen games. We play Arsenal at home, we play Chelsea away, we play United away, we play Spurs at home, and we play Man City at home. All that happens before November 9th. So half of our initial games are tough. Then we play Palace after that, who's going to be much better. But then, once you look November 30th up until mid to end of January, we have it, I don't want to say an easy stretch because the Merseyside Derby's in there, but it's after Palace, it's Brighton, and then the Derby, then Bournemouth, Watford, West Ham, Leicester, Wolves, Sheffield. Wolves again is in there. We could run and get hot and win all those games, or at least maybe just draw one. But then it gets tough towards the end again. We don't have it real tough in January. We play away at Spurs, and we play home against United. Those are both in January back-to-back. Then we've got another easier stretch again. Wolves, Southampton, Norwich, West Ham, Watford, Bournemouth. Those types of games. But then we finish tough. So out of our last 11 games, we have a Merseyside Derby at Goodison. We play at Man City. And then with 3 games to go, we played at Arsenal. Then we host Chelsea. With 2 games to go, we finish up at Newcastle. So it's tough early. And if we can overcome that and then get hot in November, December, and Spurs and United in January. Who knows? Maybe we win one and draw one. Then we got another stretch where we could run off 5, 6, 7 great results again, and then we've got the tough stretch. So if we're in it at the very end, Joe, I think you and Owen might be right.
That's here's the other thing, Brian. I think Pep. This is first of all, I think this is Pep's last year. I think City is gonna that.
Yeah, he's out of t-shirts. I mean, that was his last shirt.
What the hell is that?
To wear.
So I think the bigger question was the cargo pants.
Okay, so Jim, you are anti-cargo, and I say screw that, man.
No,
all the way.
No, I thought Pep's cargo pants were on point, man. They were on point because they weren't baggy cargo pants. They were form-fitting cargo pants.
What were those pockets up front?
That's where he's. I don't know what he's storing in there, but
his chocolates.
His chocolates and his maybe he's got some flan in there and paella and little tapas, little jamon in there, maybe some patatas bravas or however you say it. Anyway, sorry, I'm trying to go through the whole Spanish cuisine list and I'm forgetting.
Hey, the best part about Spanish cuisine list is when the Fernando Torres ad, when he first comes to Liverpool years ago. Do you remember that ad? The armband said he was a Red, and
yes.
There's guys,
in Spanish.
Liverpool's street vendor selling stuff.
Yes,
and and the guy says, "We got your paella pans. We got large ones. We got small ones," and he pronounces it paella.
And they're doing the Fernando Torres song. And they're doing the Fernando Torres song in Spanish in the background.
Yes. Yeah, they're learning Spanish in classroom. Yes, we got the paella pan. So we're at UJ's, and this outfit comes up, Jim, a whole bunch of times. Like, what the hell is he wearing? And Courtney sits down across the room and is like, is he trying to bring back cargo pants or what the hell? She's a pretty fashionable young lady and blogs about clothes and stuff. And hell, I'm not. I'm old and just wear whatever.
Yep.
But I yell across the room and said, "That's a $400 T-shirt," and a couple people sprayed their beer out, and it probably was. But
you're welcome for that, Brian. Because I'm pretty sure I said that's probably $100.
I think you're wrong. It was a $400 T-shirt.
I think he said 1,000 at the pub, but yeah.
Let's give him credit for this. At least I know it was too hot, but at least he was not wearing that damn gray cardigan hoodie thing that he was wearing all season last season. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That thing.
Like the Unabomber thing?
Yeah, it's like it can't decide whether it wants to be a hoodie or a cardigan. It's like a hybrid.
Okay, so tune into our other pod, Pep Guardiola's fashion tips.
Yes.
That'll come out later this week.
Please go back to the days when you were manager of Barcelona and you wore those really slick European cut suits.
Yeah, it's called Threads with Pep.
Threads with Pep. There we go.
The other gag about his outfit was that after the match he had to make it to a concert. He was on stage with Boyz II Men or
Backstreet Boys, I think is what Lou said.
Backstreet Boys or something. Yeah, he was fronting for Backstreet Boys that night, so he had to wear his cargo pants and his plain white T-shirt.
Oh man,
I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe.
Okay, guys. So, that's gonna do it on our
Or fashion talk.
Fashion talk, as well as our previews for the season. So let's start wrapping it up. Brian, I'm going to come to you, man. I usually don't come to you first. I usually go to Jim because I like to make him sweat. But plugs, non-plugs, my friend.
Okay, so the non-plug, and I guess we should have seen this coming with the success we had last year, with the attractive play that this team has put forward and global superstars on every continent that we get downloads on. The fandom, at least the size of the fandom in this club, has exploded. But my non-plug is not that. My non-plug is the ridiculous crap that we're seeing on social media, the knee-jerk reactions, something. I mean, I saw a post the other day about, this team is cursed. Another domestic trophy slipping through their fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, it's annoying. It's and it's okay if you've only watched this team for one season or half a season, or I met a guy I worked the other day. He's from England. He was a Swansea fan, and he said that he might have to watch Liverpool this year just to watch them in Premier League. I get that. They're a fun team to watch, But my non-plug is all this crazy knee-jerk reaction stuff because it does get annoying, and I don't follow half the people that some of you guys do on social media. And I think I'm only seeing just the tip of the iceberg here, but man, some of it's annoying. So
I'm gonna leave that.
Don't mean to dissuade the fandom. If you like this team, watch them. If you know somebody at work that's interested in watching this league, point them toward Liverpool. I mean, that's a good thing. But man, the crazy fandom was wearing me down the last couple of weeks. So that's my non-plug there. I guess I have two plugs. One is people that are kind of handling that craziness maybe a little bit better than I am sometimes, and so good for them, and I do okay with it sometimes. But my real plug is from UJ. So a fellow named Will, and I think I'm gonna get his buddy's name wrong. I think he might have said it was Andy or Dave, and forgive me, but I'm sure one of them was Will. They were watching the Community Shield pizza plate thingy trophy match at the bar, and we're all in the upper deck, and there's a bunch of Liverpool supporters in the lower deck, and because this is ESPN Plus, there was and whatever system Jay had going, there was a slight delay some of the TVs, so we're all watching the game at like 3 different times. So the bar TV was about what, Joe, 10 seconds ahead of the upper
10,
deck
15,
TV. Yeah, at least probably a dozen seconds ahead. And then the lower deck was about 4 seconds ahead of the upper deck, and we're 10 seconds behind the bar. So, Fabinho would be dribbling the ball upfield, and some people would be screaming in the other part of the bar, off the bar or whatever. And we wait 10 seconds, and then, the shot would hit the post. It was funny. It was annoying. And it started to bother us a little bit that they were sitting up top because, they would scream, oh, or, what the hell, or that's a card. And we're like, okay, here comes a foul. And we just kind of knew that there was no goal because of the reaction. So turning this into a plug, as we got to the penalties, well, first of all, we're yelling at these guys, and they were very nice because they kind of toned it down, and they really didn't have to do that. That probably wasn't fun for them to do. But we get to penalties, and they decide to abandon the TV at the bar and join the big group. And there was very little room left. But they did that, and I thought that was cool because there was no way we could go through penalties with another TV in the place being, 15 seconds ahead of anybody else, because that just wasn't going to work. So plug to Will and his buddy, and forgive me if it's either Andy or Dave, and if I got that wrong, I apologize, for abandoning the TV at UJ that was 15 seconds ahead of everybody else. That was a really cool thing to do, so I want to thank those two gentlemen for doing that for the rest of us.
Well, my non-plug is you and Jordan and everybody else that went down to the lower deck then to watch the penalty shootout, and they were like 2 seconds ahead.
Well, I went down to see how far ahead it was, and it turned out to be like 4 seconds. I came back up to the upper deck thinking, I guess it's just kind of how much I cared about the result at that point.
Yeah.
I came back up to the upper deck, and I enjoyed looking down to the lower deck, and half of our group was down there. There was only, 7 or 8 of us left on the top deck.
Yeah.
I enjoyed kind of watching their faces, watch the penalties, and that was as, they're reacting to the shot being made or missed or whatever it was. And I'm still watching the player, place the ball on the spot and back up,
Yeah.
So I found that to be kind of fun. It's not how I'd want to watch a real match, I guess, but yeah, plug to everybody for kind of putting up with the delay, especially to Will and his buddy for abandoning the TV that would have just ruined it for everybody.
Okay, Jim, plugs, non-plugs.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of peripherally mention politics here, and I'm going to do it in sort of a vague way. I'm just going to tell people as my plug to go and Google Alejandro Bedoya.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So that's all I'm going to say.
Plug.
That is all I'm going to say. For non-plugs, this goes along with Bryan's social media insanity theme for non-plugs. In particular, I want to non-plug the people who were pissed that Gini Wijnaldum did not make his penalty kick. I saw people on Twitter bitching about that, and maybe I'm just following some idiot Liverpool fans, but I couldn't believe that I was seeing that. I mean, come on, people.
Stuff like sell him now. He doesn't belong in our club. This is ridiculous.
It's just, it's insane. And let me backtrack. Yeah, exactly. A backtrack is a plug. Again, we're going to go back to Pep Guardiola fashion. I did like the cargo pants, particularly because they reminded me of the scene at Napoleon Dynamite where he was keeping tater tots in his shorts.
Give me some of your
those are my
tots,
plugs and
Jim.
non-plugs.
Jim, give me some of your tots. Oh man,
Those are my plugs and non-plugs.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
I had some tots at the racetrack on Saturday night.
Nice, Brian.
How about that?
If you
can
want,
add them to your.
never mind. I can't give a free professional plug here, so I will forego
No, you can
tot recommendation.
Yeah, no, Brian. No, hey. I know I say no free ads, but most of that time that's tongue in cheek. So
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
So my free ad is the sinking ship on 49th and College has some awesome tater tots. They're in the shape of little stars.
Okay.
So they're star tots at the sinking ship. They're great.
Can you order 6 of them, and 6 of them alone? Just 6. 6 stars. That's what I.
Here's my note to Jay and Chelsea. You need to get tachos on your menu. I know it might be played out, but you need to get tachos on that appetizer menu. Just saying.
That would
I love some tachos. Basically, it's nachos, but instead of chips, they use tots.
Yeah, I can't call them that.
Okay, loaded tater tots. Whatever.
Hey, before you do yours, Joe, I missed one.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. If you want to join our Indie Reds Fantasy League and you do that thing, there's a code that you can join. I6GNIK. That's I6GNIK. So you can play some Fantasy Premier League with all of us if you're interested. So do that. All right. Thank you, Joe.
If you beat Brian, you will get a Indie Reds podcast decal sticker. Well, window sticker. Okay, we've got enough of them. If you beat Brian.
That and anyone else that beats me, I will. The first person to find me after the season's over at Union Jack, I'll get you a beer.
There you go.
What's your team name again, Brian?
Something the cop wants you to know.
Well, that's right. Yeah, mine's Swole Hobbit FC in honor of Jordan Shaqiri.
I had a good one I gave you guys. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I'm not.
Mine was initially going to be Anfield Dentists, but somebody named their team Bobby Firmino DDS or something like that. And I was like, somebody already has a dentist theme name, so that idea is played out.
Oh man. Yeah, there's a lot of corner taken quickly. A lot of Barcelona or Liverpool 4, Barcelona 3, right, Brian? Stuff like that going around. I'm not playing this year. I just got too much going on.
Yep.
But you know what?
Should.
My plugs were I had a very quiet weekend, which is something I needed. It was delightful. My wife took the boys and they headed up north to visit some family, and so I had a nice steak, fried up some potatoes, gorged myself on food. Didn't eat much the rest of the weekend, but yeah. Non-plug is jars of spaghetti sauce that fall out of your pantry, and you get a glass shard in your foot that you can't get out yourself. So there you go. There's a little bit of a story. Luckily, I think she got it at the immediate care. And I'm because they took X-rays of my foot and did not see any foreign objects in there. So there we go. There are so many other non-plugs I could make, but we try to keep it mostly out of politics on the podcast because that's for our other podcast, Politics with Jim and Joe and Brian. Okay. All right. I want to.
Yeah, we'll talk about that with people, but just not in this particular arena.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We're here to talk about soccer. We're here to talk about Liverpool Football Club, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. All right. So I want to thank everybody for downloading this episode and listening. We really do appreciate every single one of you. Our download numbers have gone up a little, and that's awesome. It's so great. That means you're doing your job. We're doing our job, telling everybody. We keep putting out content. Hopefully, those numbers will climb. I mean, it's kind of quiet on soccer podcasts during the summer because, well, first of all, I don't listen to MLS guys or USL guys really that much either because Liverpool's my team. Sorry. But anyway, hopefully we did enough content for you this summer, and we're back. We're ready to go. And I can't wait for this season. I'm really excited for this season. Also, thanks to Jim and Bryan. I mean, seriously, guys, you're awesome. I love podcasting with you guys, and I can't wait for this season. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you for inviting us to be on and putting the pod together, being the pod mastermind.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
There's your fantasy team name right there. Pod Mastermind.
Mastermind.
My foot team sucks. How about that? I suck at foot. There we go. All right. If you
Foot Shard FC.
That's a you suck at foot. That's a very different kind of league entirely.
Oh, okay. That's not Bryan. I think you've misplaced at and on. But anyway, all right. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can find us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @IndieRedsPod. Once again, that's @IndieRedsPod. If you want to find us on Facebook, just do a search for Indie Reds Podcast. Once again, that's our full name, Indie Reds Podcast. If you would like to send us an email address is indieredspod@gmail.com. Once again, that's indieredspod@gmail.com. If like me on Amazon Prime Day, you got a new Echo Dot or whatever else they have, the Echo whatever, you can find us by just saying, Alexa, play Indie Reds Podcast, and she will play the most recent podcast. You are very welcome. Thank you, iHeartRadio. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Indie Reds Podcast. You'll never walk alone.